Hi all, what's up? Welcome back. My name is Swati and this is a Turkey travel guide. If you're planning a trip to Turkey, then I hope that this video can be helpful for you and you can plan your trip after watching this video. I'll try and make this video as transparent as to the point as it can be. And also towards the end of this video, I'll tell you about how much money I spent, my overall budget for this entire trip. I traveled to Turkey in the month of October with a friend of mine and honestly it was such an amazing trip. I had a great time in Turkey. I've been wanting to visit Turkey for a really long time and I'm so glad that finally I got to do this. Now before we jump into each of the aspects of traveling to Turkey, let me give you a rough idea, a general information about Turkey as such. So first of all, the currency in Turkey is Turkish lira, which is one Turkish lira is equal to 4 Indian rupees roughly. Turkey as a country is going through a little bit of crisis right now, so the currency is fluctuating. And another thing is that Turkey is a very progressive country. From the locals that I interacted with, I feel like it is very progressive, and this is something that a lot of people on Instagram ask me, that if you can wear whatever you want, you can drink in Turkey. Yes, you can. If you're a tourist, there's no restriction as such. Even for locals, I don't think there's any restrictions as such. You can wear whatever you want in any of the public areas. Of course, if you're going to go to a mosque or something, be respectful, cover yourself, but otherwise there's no restriction. You can drink in public places like in pubs and stuff. You will even see locals drinking. So contrary to the general assumption that Turkey is an Islamic country and alcohol is banned, no, absolutely not. It is actually a secular country. One really fun thing about Turkey is that it is an intercontinental country. So when you're going to be in Turkey, you're going to be in two continents, Europe and Asia. Especially in Istanbul, you'll find that you half time you're in Europe and half time you are in Asia, which is super cool and fun to be. Okay, now that you have all the general information out there, now let's get into each of the specific aspects of traveling to Turkey. First of all, your flights. So for my flights, I booked my tickets on Etihad Airways. For my return ticket, it cost me 46,000 Indian rupees. Now you can find cheaper flights. You can find direct flights from Delhi to Istanbul on Indigo Airways for as cheap as 40,000 rupees. I opted for Etihad Airways because I wanted a long layover in Abu Dhabi and I wanted to explore Abu Dhabi as well. So if you book on Etihad Airways, then you have this option that if you have a long layover, you'll get a free transit visa and you can get out into the city, explore whatever you want to and come back. So I wanted that, which is why I booked my tickets on Etihad. But if you want direct, then you can do that as well. And your tickets would cost you somewhere around 40 to 50,000 Indian rupees. You can search for your flights on websites like Skyscanner, which are basically aggregators, and they will compare prices. They will also notify you when the tickets are cheaper, so you can book accordingly. I definitely recommend that you compare prices and you book well in advance to save some money. Now coming to your visa, my god, visa for Turkey is super expensive. I'm really sorry to tell you this, and there's a lot of confusing information out there on the internet. It is super expensive, and on the internet you will find that online visa is available for Indians. Well, it is not. It is subject to a condition which I'll tell you. So for online visa, if you want to apply for online visa, you need to have a valid UK, US, Schengen, Ireland, any of these visas, or a resident permit. So in case you don't have any of these visas or resident permit and you have an ordinary Indian passport, then you need to go through VFS or Gateway. And yeah, you need to opt for a sticker visa and that will cost you 15,000 Indian rupees. So it's pretty expensive. If you have any of these valid UK, US, Schengen, Ireland visa or resident permit, then you can opt for e-visa and that will only cost you like under 4,000 Indian rupees. So yeah, that's just a bummer. It is quite expensive. The Turkey visa is quite expensive. So Turkey is a super tourist friendly country and you have all types of accommodation. Whether you are a backpacker, whether you're traveling with family or a group of friends, you have everything from hostel to rooms to boutique hotels. You have all the options. And if you're on a budget, it will somewhere cost you 1,000 to 4,000 Indian rupees person per day, depending on what you opt for. If you can opt for backpacking or luxury, and this I'm saying if you want to be in the center of every city that you're traveling to. So I personally traveled to Istanbul, Izmir, Antalya, and Cappadocia, and the least that I've spent was 750 Indian rupees per person. So depending on which part of the city that you want, that you are going to stay in, you can plan your trip, and 1000 to 4000 is something that you will spend. 4000 being on the higher end of the spectrum. So when I was in Istanbul, I stayed in two places, that is Sultanahmet and Taksim Square, both of which are amazing, and I will leave a link to the hostels that I stayed in. I personally opted mostly for hostels because I traveled with a friend of mine, and for backpacking I feel hostels are a great place. You also meet a lot of new people, and that's the kind of travel that I wanted to do. Depending on the type of travel that you like, you can pick and choose what you want to. Let me tell you that the public transport in Turkey is just amazing, especially in all the places that I went to. There was absolutely no problem. From getting from the airport to the city, to traveling within the city, or going from one city to another, public transport is just so good. So as soon as you reach in Turkey, when you are in the airport, to go to the actual city, you will find shuttle buses, and they're quite affordable. It will cost you about 200 to 300 Indian rupees one way per person. And for your internal transport within the city, you have trams. For that, you have to get a card. You have trams or local buses, but we mostly opted for trams. They were just more convenient, faster, and fun. So yeah, you have to buy these cards, and you can recharge it, and you can use it wherever you want to go within a city. Super convenient. And for you to travel from one city to another, even internal flights are pretty affordable. They will cost about 2500 Indian rupees per person one way. Other than that, you have buses. So Flixbus is a very popular bus operator in the whole of Europe, and even in Turkey you will find it. So that's pretty convenient if you want to go, if you want to take an overnight bus or something like that. It is super convenient. That way you could also be saving money for your accommodation for one day. You can plan your trip however you find comfortable. But yeah, Flixbus is a great option. Very good buses, good leg room, and also they give you like little snacks on the way, which is great. And that would cost you about 1000 to 2000 rupees per person per day, depending on which city to which city you're going to. Now let's talk about food. Food in Turkey is just so amazing. It is predominantly non-vegetarian, but don't worry, even if you're a vegetarian, you will find a lot of good vegetarian local options. And I highly recommend that you try some local food, because trust me, it is going to be so good. Now they have a lot of options, from local restaurants to cafes, high-end restaurants. You have a lot of options, and food can cost you around 200 to 1000 per meal per person. Now, definitely, if you're a tourist in any place, you can opt for a lot of tours, or you can opt for no tours at all. It totally depends on how you want to explore a country. Even in Istanbul, there are a lot of tours, from free walking tours to paid walking tours to cruises, luxury cruise, dinner cruise. There's a lot that happens. Personally, we opted for free walking tour, which is a very common concept in Europe, and even in Turkey you have that free walking tour. But when they say free walking tour, it means that you are free to give whatever you want to. So you have to tip the guide at the end of the trip, at the end of the tour, and depending on how satisfied you are, you can decide like what you want to do. But I highly recommend you give something that is appropriate, because the person is going to be spending a lot of time and energy on taking you around and explaining things. So usually free walking tours are group trips, group tours, and it's quite fun, and it's really a good way to get oriented to the city and to know a little bit about the history, culture, food, and everything. So that's about Istanbul. In Izmir city as such, there are not a lot of tour options. You can just walk around and explore the city, and mostly everything to do in Izmir are free. So that's one thing. But you have tours from Izmir to Pamukkale. Personally, I didn't find Pamukkale to be very interesting. in all honesty, so I didn't opt for that, but you can definitely choose for yourself if you want to do it or not. And in Antalya you have Doodle Falls, so that will cost you somewhere about 26 euros. You can even find one for 10 euros, 15 euros, so you can ask around. Once you reach the city, you can actually ask around, you can ask different tour operators and book your tours and plan your trip that way. You don't really need to do it well in advance. And the same thing for Cappadocia. Now Cappadocia, here's a little bit of an exception. If you want to do the hot air balloon tour, then you need to book that well in advance because it usually gets sold out. So definitely do that well in advance. I will leave a link to the one that I booked from in the description box. They actually gave pretty good rate, and the hot air balloon ride for us per person was costing us 18,000 Indian rupees, which I know is pretty expensive, but yeah, it is what it is. And the sad thing is that we couldn't go on it because for the 3 days that we were in Cappadocia, the weather was really bad and the balloons could not fly. So we got a refund. You get a full refund in case you cannot fly. So you're definitely not going to lose your money in case you're not able to fly. But yeah, you need to book that tour well in advance. But other than that, in Cappadocia, there are a lot of other tours like the green tour, red tour. You have a safari as well. We did the safari, which costed us $25 per person. It was just amazing. So we were two people. I traveled with a friend of mine, so we were two people, and it honestly, I loved the safari. Our chauffeur was really good. He also gave us like little champagne and everything at the end of it. Super sweet guy. It was a fun thing to do. Other than that, we went for a hike in Cappadocia. It was wonderful. We went for a hike in Love Valley. It was free to do and it was also amazing. So tours are something that it depends on you, like how much you want to spend and how much you are willing to spend or how you want to explore a place. Now let's talk a little bit about shopping in Turkey. It is actually pretty amazing. Turkey is one place where a lot of things are manufactured, so you will even find like wholesale shops, or you'll find things for much cheaper. Even in like shops, in branded shops also, you'll find a lot of discounts and some kind of deals going on. So definitely, if you're going to Turkey, do a little bit of shopping. Keep a little bit of budget for shopping because trust me, you are going to love it. Now that we have all that information out there, let me give you a little insight into our overall expenditure. So like I mentioned before, I traveled with a friend of mine and we traveled via Abu Dhabi on Etihad Airways. So our trip and in its entirety, it costed me around 1,30,000 rupees per person, and this includes 1 day in Abu Dhabi. So which was about 11,000 rupees is exactly what we spent in Abu Dhabi in a day. So you can say that our Turkey trip costed about 1,19,000 rupees, and this is including the visa fee, the flight accommodation and everything. So you can definitely do this trip for much cheaper if you plan it accordingly. Even though we were doing a backpacking trip, we were not at all being frugal about it. We were in fact being a little lavish with our trip. So I would say that once you are in Turkey as such, it's not going to be super expensive. Definitely getting to Turkey and the visa is going to be a little expensive, but to roam around within Turkey and to do your tours and everything, it's not really going to be super expensive. Now hot air balloon ride is something that you need to plan for because that alone would cost you about 20,000 rupees, so that is pretty expensive. But other than that, traveling within Turkey, I would say is almost the same as traveling in India. Not too expensive, not too cheap. So I hope that this video has given you all the information that you needed to plan your trip to Turkey. And if this video has helped you, then please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you're new to my channel. I'll soon be uploading all the travel vlogs from Turkey, so stay tuned for that. Until then, take care and bye bye.